Welcome to Valley Politics History Interviews. I'm Terry Christensen. Ron Gonzales was mayor of San Jose from 1999 to 2006. Here for the first time is our 2015 interview with Mayor Gonzales in full. Now it's time for Where Are They Now? Today we present the first part of an exclusive interview with Ron Gonzales, who served as Santa Clara County Supervisor from 1989 to 1996, and then as the 63rd mayor of San Jose from 1999 to 2007. Let's find out what he's up to now. Ron Gonzales, thank you for welcoming us to your office today and for talking with us. Almost 30 years in public office, City of Sunnyvale, Santa Clara County, Mayor of San Jose till 2007. What have you been doing since then?
Enjoying life.
Good.
It's a wonderful time. It's been 8 years now. Time flies when you're having fun. And part of the time I was, my wife and I were running our own marketing consulting business. But most of the time I've been here at the Hispanic Foundation of Silicon Valley as the president and CEO, running this wonderful organization, doing all that we possibly can to improve the quality of life for Silicon Valley Latinos.
Well, that's a major mission. 8 years as mayor, though, what do you miss about being mayor?
I miss the people. I miss the interaction with the neighborhoods. Certainly my own mayor staff. I was so blessed to have a wonderful group of people, professionals who work for me and with me and for the city. And so I miss the daily engagement with them, working on projects to improve San Jose, to lead San Jose into a new future, which we spent 8 years working at. And certainly the city employees, although I see many of them in throughout San Jose at the grocery stores and the coffee shops and those types of things. But the daily interaction with neighborhoods is what I miss the most. Although this job has allowed me to re-engage the community, but certainly not 24/7 like the mayor's job.
What got you into politics in the first place? What inspired you? What gave you the confidence to actually run for office?
Well, it's funny. I think all of us think back to certain points in our childhood, and in my young adulthood, or young childhood, and probably more specifically, I remember distinctly listening to John F. Kennedy making his inaugural speech, where he said, "Don't ask what your country can do for you, but ask what you can do for your country." I would say that was kind of the first time I began to think about politics and political science. And then, of course, living with my father, who was a community leader here in the San Jose, Silicon Valley, or we call it Santa Clara County in those days, civil rights movements in the 1960s and his active engagement in the community. And a principle that he instilled in each of his 5 children, which was basically that we have a responsibility, all of us do, to find some point in our lives where we improve the lives of others. I found, for me, that was public service. So, I ran for the city council in my hometown of Sunnyvale, and then it took off from there. But like most people who serve at the local elected level, is my initial engagement was in my neighborhood. Was being a neighborhood leader, and then it just kind of mushroomed up from there.
It's a great way to start, and the family inspiration is really important.
Sure was.
What accomplishments as mayor are you most proud of now?
Wow, I don't know that we have enough time to talk about all of them.
Just give us the top 2.
Obviously, we were very instrumental in moving San Jose forward, as I like to say. Our affordable housing programs, our Strong Neighborhoods Initiative, setting the stages for what became the new San Jose Mineta International Airport, the construction of the new City Hall downtown, the new Martin Luther King Library at San Jose State, all of those branch libraries and neighborhoods and fire stations and neighborhoods who didn't have them before. But beyond the buildings that signify San Jose kind of reconnecting with its neighborhoods, I would say just the overall feeling that I tried to instill in City Hall that connected City Hall with those neighborhoods and with citizens in San Jose, with people who call this their home, with people that love this city of San Jose. Before, and in most cities, people are connected with City Hall when they have an issue or need, but we kind of reversed that relationship. And I was very proud of the fact that we literally trained hundreds of city workers how to actively listen to the people they were meeting out in the city streets. And I think that led to a feeling and an understanding that I tried to instill in city workers that, from my experience, people who live in San Jose look to the city for some very basic kinds of services. And the way they judge city services is from their driveway. You know, when they go out and pick up the mail or the morning newspaper, they look around. Is the street clean? Is it safe? Is the park across the street graffiti free? All these types of things that people see in their own neighborhood is how they judge city services.
And out of Strong Neighborhoods Initiative, there is a legacy of community activists as well as retrained city staff.
Absolutely, and you know, a lot of those people who became those activists started out that process pretty skeptical about
Absolutely.
whether city, you know, the city, whether the city would really listen to them. And let's face it, you know, there were 20 neighborhoods in that process. Not every one of them turned out the way initially that we wanted it to, because they were being led by city staff, not the other way around. So in some cases, we had them start back at ground, you know, step number one, and work back through the process. But ultimately, every one of those presentations made by those neighborhood groups, those, you know, neighborhood or SNI advisory groups, as we called them, was led by the community, organized by the community, and those people, you know, felt that level of success at the end.
And again, lots of those folks are still active.
Thank God.
One of the policy areas you didn't mention in that impressive list is education. I was one of the skeptics when you ran for mayor in 1998 and said you were going to be the education mayor. And we all said, no, 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 what's Ron talking about? Education is not a responsibility of the city, not of this city, at least. But you did things in education. What were your accomplishments there?
Well, I never bought into the fact that the city shouldn't do something about education, because the city, for example, just one small example, the mayor really doesn't control the Valley Transportation Agency. But yet you would expect the mayor to be, you know, intricately involved in transportation policy and programs that, you know, help commuters get from where they live to work and back home in time for dinner, as I like to say. But in education, I felt that middle-class families judge a city on two things, and they judge that city in terms of whether they're going to make an investment and buy a home in a city on two factors. One, how safe is the neighborhood, and how good are the public schools? And our public schools needed a partnership with City Hall. So we began that partnership by meeting with school superintendents, school board members, with parents, with students and teachers. And we began to say, you know, what role can we provide that no one else can do? And that led to programs like our teacher housing program, where we helped over 530 public school teachers buy their first home in the city of San Jose at a time when the market was up, right? So it was not easy, but we made it happen. We had after-school homework centers in 250 neighborhoods. We had a preschool program called Smart Start in about 20 neighborhoods, where we saw the test scores and aptitude scores of children entering kindergarten not ready to learn. And so we saw the very early signs of success by investing in that preschool type of program. We made our schools safer with working with our police departments on lockdown procedures. So I think it was a true partnership between City Hall and the 18 school districts that serve the children of San Jose, and to the point where, you know, the superintendents we work with most closely used to call me the education mayor, you know, poking a little fun at me. But I you know, I held that title with a lot of respect, because it meant that our city was truly, you know, working as a partner with our schools.
So we have a new mayor. What's your best advice for him?
Oh, my best advice for Mayor Liccardo. You know, I think the challenge a mayor has in a city this large. People really don't understand how big San Jose is. I didn't understand. I think, you know, Mayor Reed probably didn't understand how the demands. You don't know what you don't know, and you start to learn the first day in office. But there'll be demands coming from everyone. One of the things that I practiced week after week was spending Saturdays out in the neighborhoods, out in the communities. And there are different ways we did that. You know, we had the neighborhood cleanups, we had graffiti removal programs. You've got to find ways to reach out and stay in touch with those people in the neighborhoods. Because once you're in that city hall, it's like inside the Beltway. It becomes a world of its own. But that's not the real world. The real world is out there in the east side of San Jose, or in Berryessa, or Evergreen, the west side of San Jose, Alviso, all of these neighborhoods that make up this great city. The wonderful thing about San Jose is that we're home to 1 million people. But time after time, when visitors would visit us, and I would talk to them about their visit, the one thing that they always shared was they were always surprised that it had a small town feel to that. And I think that they're compatible. Having a small town feeling by people that, yeah, I can access government, I can access my council member, my mayor, whatever, but also be proud of the fact that we're a city on the move. And I think Mayor Liccardo is going to get us back on the move during his term.
One of our new mayor's challenges will be he doesn't have the redevelopment agency. You used redevelopment agency funds for affordable housing, strong neighborhoods initiatives, capital improvements of all sorts, not to mention downtown. How can he compensate for that?
Well, he can't. He can't all by himself and all by the city itself. This is going to be an era of partnership and being extremely creative of how do you form partnerships. On the other hand, I think the mayors of California, the Big Ten mayors as they call themselves, are going to need to get together. They're going to need to meet with Governor Brown and the state legislature and find a state solution to the affordable housing crisis. This is epidemic issues here, epidemic level. The number of families in places like Silicon Valley and other major urban centers of California who cannot afford another rent increase is incredible. And I think that there's a very high percentage of families, not individuals, families who are literally one rent increase away from being on the streets. And when that begins to happen, you're going to see a homeless population in San Jose, in Silicon Valley, in the state of California just exploding. The problem is I don't see anybody calling that meeting together.
Yeah.
And I think it needs to be done the same way that you would have a natural emergency catastrophe type of thing. A state of emergency, I think, on affordable housing is desperately needed.
Well, I'm sure the Hispanic Foundation will be there when the meeting is called.
If we're allowed in the room, I'll be there talking.
Shifting gears a little bit, what was your biggest disappointment as mayor?
I think the biggest disappointment was the last 2 years of my term, ending my 24 years in public life in turmoil, fighting with members of the city council who were running for other offices, in some cases 3 of them running to succeed me as mayor, and the tarnish that left on my record, my family name, the expense it left on my family expenses and resources, which I'm still paying for. Certainly that was a disappointment. And even with that, it doesn't overshadow the many years of public service and enjoyment that I had in serving the public. And specifically, it doesn't overshadow being the mayor of San Jose, which I consider still the greatest big city in America. I think we left San Jose as the safest big city in America, with better neighborhood services than ever before, with a better understanding by the people of San Jose what City Hall was capable of. We kind of took away the image that the bureaucracy can't do anything correct. I think we changed that image, and hopefully that can be restored again.
Those last 2 years, and when you left office under a cloud, you were censured by the city council. There was an indictment for bribery, which a judge later threw out entirely. And that was over the negotiations for the contract for garbage collection. Do you think you were just wrongfully accused, or in retrospect, do you think you erred in some way?
Well, I do think I was wrongfully accused, and more importantly, so did the judge. When 2 years of actions by an overzealous deputy district attorney, who, in my opinion, misused the civil grand jury in my case, and came up with this bogus bribery charge that just could not stand up to the discerning eye of a well-qualified and experienced judge. Once it finally got to that level, when that judge looked at it and said, this should have never been filed, it certainly was discouraging to have to go through that, to be the subject of kind of a political hanging, so to speak, public hanging by your colleagues on the city council. I recognize what was going on. As I said before, we had 5 members of a 10-member council running for public office. 3 of them opposing each other to succeed me, 2 others opposing each other to be a county supervisor. So when you're absent issues, then you all kind of gang up on something. And I think that over a longer period of time, when people review the public record, they'll see that this should have never happened, and it was very unfortunate that it did, and certainly very discouraging way to leave public office. But as I said before, for me personally, it doesn't tarnish the 24 years service that I gave to a number of communities in this region.
Some people blame past mayors and councils for the city's current pension and budget problems. Did you have any clue that these kinds of problems were coming when you were mayor?
Well, if I knew that the city was going to have the budgetary issues that it's had for much of the last 8 years, I would have been working the stock market, because I would have then been able to predict where the economy is going. Because most, if not all, of the budget worries that the city has, and any government organization had during the Great Recession, was caused by the Great Recession. You have a drop in sales tax, you have a drop in property taxes, all these types of things are really out of your control as a mayor. So you have to respond quickly as much as you possibly can. In terms of the pension issue, I think it's fair to say that when I became mayor, in the surveys that the city staff brought to us, the salary surveys, where you do this in the private sector, you kind of compare your organization's salaries compared to the competition. The same thing happens in the public sector. And those surveys showed that the salaries and benefits we were paying police and fire were far below where they needed to be. We weren't even among the leaders where I think we should be in order to attract, train, and keep really good people in your police and fire department. So we had to do what the market was dictating at that point. So we did that. The flip side of that now is changes have been made, and we've seen hundreds of police officers, mostly very experienced police officers, leaving the department, going to work for other cities. The same happens with fire, and in many respects with city workers also, the regular city workers at City Hall. And I think it's been a tremendous brain drain from the city, and I think that ultimately we're going to have to pay for that.
Okay. You made history as the first Latino mayor of San Jose since statehood in the 19th century.
That was a long campaign, 150 years.
It took a long time. I'm not sure how much progress we've made, though. Today, out of 11 members of the council, including the mayor, there are 3 Latinos. Out of 5 members of the county board, there's 1 Latino. But Latinos are a third of the population of the city of San Jose. Why do you think more Latinos aren't getting elected? And maybe your work with foundation training for Latinos is building the field?
Well, I think there are a lot of reasons for that. I think, unfortunately, fewer and fewer people in general are being attracted to elective office for a variety of reasons. I think that the public media display of and exposure that elected officials go through now is so much higher than when I first started serving the public back in 1979. So these are the kinds of things people are more aware of now. So it's like, okay, do I really want this job? Even though I love serving the public, maybe I'll serve on the library commission or something less exposure oriented. So I think in general people are very careful about venturing into elective office. Now, having said that, I think the challenge we have in a place like San Jose, where you have district elections, is that even though San Jose is about a third Hispanic, a good portion of our community lives in a couple council districts, right? So I think as our foundation hopefully continues its work to get more of our children to graduate from college, to get more of those graduates to work in high tech, and to raise their incomes, to allow them the opportunity to buy a home in Willow Glen or the Rose Garden or Almaden Valley, then you begin to disperse that voting population. And then of course, there's study after study, and you know this as a political scientist, that shows that voter participation, civic engagement skyrockets when someone buys a home, because they now have an investment in the community. So I think it's a long range issue, but I want to also mention that when I was in the city council, we had 3 Hispanics, and there was 1 Hispanic on the board of supervisors. It dipped a little bit for about a year, now we're back to where we were. So hopefully we don't see that dip again, and we can continue to move forward. But having said that, obviously we want to see more representation from all the other ethnic communities of San Jose, because we are one of those cities that is a minority-majority community. And I truly believe that those communities, like any community, needs to feel that they have the opportunity to be engaged in their government.
And right now, we probably have San Jose's most diverse council ever.
Yeah, with the exception of women.
One last question. A lot of people probably don't know that, like me, you're a political film buff. So tell us what's your favorite political movie.
Oh, wow, that's a long list. But actually, we've talked about this. It's The Candidate. Absolutely.
Well, we share that.
And I think because when you look at that movie, one, the time era that was made, I think it was very insightful. Because I've seen people like The Candidate. And those are people who get into politics because of the glare of the lights and the stardom, that type of thing. And they're attracted to that rather than sitting down with themselves and saying, okay, what's in here? You know, why do I want to do this? Because when you're in elective office, you're going to have issues coming at you from all different directions, and you're not going to be able to book up on all of them. So you're going to have to come back to what are your instincts. You know, why are you doing this job that pays so little and demands so much? And I think that what Robert Redford depicted in that movie was that type of candidate, who the glare was there. He was propped up. He was given the answers to the questions. He gave the answers that were given to him. And at the end of the movie, the closing line was, once he gets elected, he turns to his campaign manager as his campaign manager is leaving his hotel room, and he asks the campaign manager what? He says, "What do we do now?"
Right.
That's the question you ask at the beginning of the campaign if you're really into this for all the right reasons.
Great choice of film. 1976 it was, and some of it was filmed in San Jose.
Oh, I didn't know that part.
Yeah, some of it was at Eastridge before the shopping center actually opened.
Oh, wow.
Jane Decker's in. Well, we can talk about that. We can talk about that some other time. But
Absolutely.
Thanks again for your time today. Great insights. We really appreciate
Thank you for inviting
having
me
you on the show. For other interviews with the leaders and activists who shaped the history of San Jose and Santa Clara County, look for the Valley Politics History interviews on YouTube.